Hey everyone, and welcome back. Ready for another deep dive? Today we're tackling landscape design, which I know a lot of you have been asking about.
It's a fantastic field.
It is, and we've got some great insights from RoleCatcher.
Yeah, RoleCatcher really digs deep, goes way beyond just the basics.
Exactly. It's not just, here's how to plant a pretty flower.
Right.
We're getting into the nitty-gritty of this career path.
And it's fascinating stuff, really reveals the hidden depths of what a landscape designer actually does.
Yeah, and one thing that really struck me was how RoleCatcher emphasizes the impact this work has. Like, transforming outdoor spaces into works of art. Sure, it sounds catchy, but
It's more than that.
it is. We're talking about the environment, communities, even like well-being. It's a much bigger picture.
Exactly. It's about understanding how people interact with their surroundings, with the environment. A landscape designer takes all that knowledge, the science of a space, and designs environments that are functional and beautiful.
It's this really cool blend of like creativity and serious technical expertise. And speaking of technical, I was blown away by RoleCatcher's take on how technology is changing the game. Drones. Like, who would have thought?
Right. It's revolutionizing the field. Think about it. Site analysis used to take days, weeks sometimes, trudging around, taking measurements. Now you've got drones that can capture detailed aerial images in minutes.
It's incredible. Literally a bird's eye view, but with data points instead of, feathers.
Exactly. And the level of accuracy, it's a game changer.
Totally. And it's not just drones, right? RoleCatcher was talking about 3D modeling, even virtual reality.
Oh, yeah. It's not your grandma's landscaping anymore.
Not at all. So explain this to me, because I'm still wrapping my head around it. How is VR being used?
Okay, so imagine you're a client, right? And you can put on a headset and actually walk through your future garden. You see how the light falls, how the plants interact.
Wow. So you can experience the design before a single thing's been planted.
Exactly. And for the designer, 3D modeling allows for incredibly detailed representations. It's a game changer for client communication, too.
That makes so much sense. No more like waving your hands around trying to describe your vision.
Right. But it's not all, high-tech glamour. RoleCatcher doesn't shy away from the day-to-day realities of the job either.
Which are?
Well, it can be physically demanding. You're outdoors, dealing with different weather conditions, different sites, sometimes challenging terrains.
Okay, so you need to be able to handle whatever Mother Nature throws at you.
Right. You're on a construction site one day, meeting with clients in their backyard the next. And speaking of which, RoleCatcher emphasizes how important communication skills are.
Oh, absolutely. You're not just working solo in your own little design world.
Not at all. You're constantly collaborating. You've got clients, contractors, architects, sometimes even government officials, depending on the project.
So you need to be able to communicate your vision clearly to a lot of different people.
Absolutely. Managing expectations, navigating different perspectives, those are key skills for any landscape designer.
So we've got a pretty good picture of what a landscape designer does day to day, the skills involved.
Yeah.
But how do you actually get started? What's the path to becoming a landscape designer?
Well, RoleCatcher gives a really clear breakdown of the whole education and advancement side of things. A bachelor's degree is usually the starting point, and it's interesting, they highlight a bunch of different majors that could be relevant.
Oh, really? Like what?
So you've got the obvious one, landscape architecture.
Right.
But they also mention horticulture, urban planning, even environmental design.
Makes sense when you think about the bigger picture.
Exactly. It's not just about, arranging plants. It's a whole system.
It's like designing an ecosystem, really.
Mm-hmm.
And RoleCatcher emphasizes like the learning never stops, right? You've got continuing education, workshops, all that.
Absolutely. The field's always evolving, new technology, sustainable practices, you name it. Got to stay ahead of the curve.
Definitely. Okay, so let's say you've got the education part covered. It's a competitive field.
Yeah.
What does RoleCatcher suggest to really stand out?
Well, your portfolio is huge. It's your chance to, show off what you can do, your creativity, all of that. But
It's not just the old school, physical portfolio anymore, though, right?
no way. Online presence is key now. Your own website, a portfolio platform, even social media can be a powerful tool. It's all about getting your work out there.
Networking. So important.
Huge. You've got to make connections.
Speaking of connections, can we talk about the landscape designer versus landscape architect thing? I always get those two confused.
Yeah, it's a common one. So generally, landscape architects, they've usually got more formal education, licensing requirements, that kind of thing.
Okay.
And they often handle larger scale projects like urban planning, parks, stuff that involves more complex engineering.
So like those amazing city parks with the interactive water features,
Yeah.
that's more of a landscape architect thing.
Exactly. Whereas landscape designers might work on anything from residential gardens to, smaller commercial spaces.
Okay, that makes sense. So you could say if it's like that tranquil backyard oasis, that's our landscape designer at work.
Exactly. Both roles are super important, though, shaping the environments we live in.
Totally. And speaking of living, what's the job outlook like for aspiring landscape designers?
RoleCatcher actually paints a pretty optimistic picture. They're projecting 5% growth between 2019 and 2029.
That's awesome. What's driving that growth?
They're saying it's the increasing demand for, sustainable, beautiful outdoor spaces. Cities are growing. People want that connection to nature.
Right. More green spaces, less concrete jungle.
Exactly. But RoleCatcher's realistic, too. It's not all sunshine and roses.
Right. What are some of the challenges they highlight?
Well, the physically demanding aspect, working outdoors in all kinds of weather, and then there's the client management side, which can have its own challenges.
Oh, I bet. Balancing your vision with their expectations, budgets, all of that.
Exactly. But speaking of client expectations, RoleCatcher has this great section on FAQs, really insightful stuff.
Like what?
One that stuck out was about sustainability. And they don't just give vague ideas, they list specific practices like using native plants, conserving water, even stuff like permeable paving to reduce runoff.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, they give real-world examples, which is helpful.
It's one thing to say you care about the environment. It's another to actually design with that in mind.
Exactly. And that goes back to the bigger impact of landscape design. It's not just about aesthetics, it's about creating spaces that are good for the planet.
It's amazing how much thought goes into every decision a landscape designer makes, huh? From like the tiniest plant to these big picture ideas about sustainability.
It's all connected. And it speaks to how the role of a landscape designer is evolving. It's not just about aesthetics, it's about being really thoughtful, about the environment, about advocating for sustainable practices.
Designing for both now and the future.
Exactly. And that makes me think about something else we talked about, technology. Remember how RoleCatcher mentioned 3D modeling and VR?
Yeah, it's like, whoa, the future is now.
Right, but those are just the tip of the iceberg. There's even more cool stuff coming down the line.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. Spill it. What else is out there?
Well, imagine a world where landscape designers are using AI, artificial intelligence.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, like using it to analyze site conditions, predict how plants will grow, even generate different design options based on a client's style.
No way.
Yeah. Or picture this, augmented reality. So you're on site, but you can see the design plans overlaid on the real world through some kind of headset.
Whoa, that's next level. Like stepping into a video game version of your garden.
Exactly. The possibilities are really mind-blowing. And it kind of makes you wonder, what skills will landscape designers need in the future to keep up with all this?
It's a good reminder that we should all be lifelong learners, right? Especially in a field that's changing so fast.
Absolutely.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, from the day-to-day of being a landscape designer to the really big picture impact their work has. Any final thoughts you want to leave our listeners with?
I think the biggest takeaway is that landscape design, it's about so much more than just, does this plant look nice here? It's about really understanding a space, the science of it, the art of it, and how it affects people and the environment.
It's about making spaces that are beautiful,
Yeah.
but also functional and sustainable.
Right. It's about designing the world we want to live in.
One yard, one park, one rooftop garden at a time. Love it.
Yeah.
And if you want to learn more, RoleCatcher is the place to go, right? Career guides, interview tips, all that good stuff.
Yeah, they've got resources for everyone, whether you're just starting out or you're a seasoned pro.
Awesome. A huge thanks to you for sharing your expertise with us today.
My pleasure.
And to all of you listening, thanks for joining us for another deep dive. We'll see you next time.